What is up, guys? Pizza Boy here. Today we're going to be talking about the 5 best cars I would recommend for any pizza delivery driver. I've actually delivered pizza for a little over 2 years before I quit working at Domino's. I had also been driving for Uber Eats and DoorDash around that same time. So I have a bit of experience in delivering food, dealing with customers. I take into account a lot of things. I dealt with a lot of different situations. And overall, if I were to redo it again and go back to delivering pizza, these are the top 5 cars that I would pick as a really good investment to start that off with. This is in no particular order. This is just the top 5 I could think of. It's not going from best to worst or most expensive to least expensive. This is just overall what I would consider the best cars for the job. Number 1. Now, if you're delivering pizzas or any sort of product for that matter, the one thing you have to overcome is cost of fuel. Now, there's always insurance, and there's always maintenance costs as well, which are things that you definitely need to account for. But the biggest thing that everybody thinks about, and the biggest thing that does come up because you're going to be driving a lot more than the average person, is fuel consumption. So that means for my number 1 pick, or the first one I'm going to say, is a Toyota Prius. Now I know if you're a car person, it's probably the last thing you want to drive, but besides that, the Prius has always been phenomenal with getting really good gas mileage. It's one thing and one expense that would be really nice, especially with all the extra income of tips and all that. If you can minus one section of your costs, the other ones will build up over time, if that makes sense. So for instance, my Mini Cooper is extremely fun to drive, but I'm probably averaging around 25 to maybe 30 on a good day if I drive conservatively. And with a Prius, you can get anywhere from 45 miles a gallon up to 60, depending on what model that you get. And over the long run, that is amazing. Here in California, gas prices fluctuate so much, they can cost a lot. And if you drive a lot as well, it adds up over time. That's one cost that would be really nice to minimize. You can get a lot of Priuses. It really doesn't matter what generation you get. One thing you really have to look into as well is cost of insurance to insure a car. Owning a 2-door coupe is going to cost a lot more than if you have a 4-door sedan. So that means if you get the Prius, which always comes in 4 doors, you are always going to be paying less for insurance. Plus, hybrids always get access to like HOV lanes. One thing you have to deal with less if you have to deal with traffic or go on a freeway for any reason. Having that extra HOV sticker and benefit is a really, really good perk. Number 2 for my pick would have to be a Honda Civic Hybrid. Now, if you go for the first generation Civic Hybrids, I believe they were available from like 2002 to 2005, and they did another generation from like 2006 until 2008, and now they just came out with a new version. And those get between like 35 to 45, I believe. Don't quote me on that. All I know is that if you have a hybrid, you get a lot of benefits with that. And plus, any sort of Toyota or Honda hybrid system is going to be dependable. It's also going to cost less to insure, and it's always going to be more reliable in the long run. The last thing you want to do is have a really good, German, for instance, Mini Cooper makes a hybrid. It's their first hybrid. You just never know how long they're really going to last. If you can go for like a 2003 or 2002 Honda Civic Hybrid, you can get really good gas mileage, and you can probably get those cars for anywhere between like $1,500 all the way up to $5,000 if you get one with not that many miles. So the entry point is what you want to be focused on, not just the long run. The last thing you want to do, and this is what I recommend for everybody, is that you never, ever, ever go into a delivery job and then get a loan for a car that's going to cost you more to insure, more to pay off, and all that stuff. It's just so much more of a hassle, and there's so many more risks involved with delivering pizza and delivering food anyway, that it's much easier to just buy a cheaper car in the beginning that gets really good fuel economy, and is also less to insure and less expensive to maintain, and is reliable. Those are the best tips I can probably offer. So if you can get any of those cars, Japanese cars, Honda Civics, or Hondas, Toyotas are definitely best. I've heard Nissan can be a little bit on the shaky side sometimes, depends. I'm not familiar with Nissan very well, but I definitely do. I have had both Toyotas and Corollas. I've had both Toyotas and Hondas, and I would definitely recommend them to anybody. So if you can get those Honda Civic Hybrids for less than like $3,000, even if you're willing to spend the extra $4,000 or even $5,000 on those cars, it is definitely worth it in the long run. You'll make more money in the long run, and definitely a really good option. So next is just a regular Toyota Corolla. You can buy these things from any generation, from the 80s all the way up until now. You know, and they're always reliable. Toyota Corollas are bulletproof cars. They will last you forever. You can put hundreds of thousands of miles on these things. If you get the four-door versions, not the coupe versions, you're always going to be paying less. The upfront cost is going to cost less. Overall, it really doesn't matter what kind of car you drive. You know, I was very focused on the looks more so than the reliability. Mini Cooper, I've learned in the long run, is reliable, but it's also super expensive to maintain. You're paying full BMW prices for this kind of stuff, even if it has a Mini Cooper badge. So, you know, Toyota as a brand, the Corolla is a fantastic car. I've owned one before. Highly recommend that. You always want a car with good trunk space and back seat space, because you never know how many deliveries you're going to be going out with. Sometimes I've had 1 delivery, sometimes I've actually had 8. That's not a joke. There were some times where I was the only driver. I had to do all. It got crazy. Sometimes I was out for like an hour, sometimes maybe even more, delivering pizzas, and pizzas would get cold. It happens all the time. It's not an uncommon situation. My next option would be the Subaru Impreza hatchback, or the sportback, or one of those things. Hatchbacks are very good because their trunks are usually bigger than the average trunk. You can fit a lot of things back there, but also if you get the 4-door version, not the 2-door. Did they make it 2-door? Anyway. So if you get the sportback, you are guaranteed to have 1, good fuel economy, 2, really good reliability, and 3, really good trunk space, which is what you want when you're delivering pizza or any sort of goods. Now, another one that is going to be a 4-door is going to be the Honda Civic. I know it sounds very bland, but really, realistically, Toyota Corollas and Honda Civics are going to be your best bets. If you can get them in a hybrid, it is even a better bet anyway. Sometimes, you know, you might need to replace the whole battery pack. Those can be a little bit pricey, but overall, the less you can spend on fuel, it's one more added cost that you don't need to worry about, and in the long run, it'll save you so much money. Honda Civics are so inexpensive to buy sometimes. You can find some from anywhere from $1,000 all the way up to brand new $20,000. So it varies. You can match whatever budget you have. I would definitely recommend trying to get the cheapest one possible with the least amount of mileage, and try and stay away from rebuilt titles. But I have had both. The Civic is what I had first when I delivered pizzas, then I transferred into this thing, and I can tell you, transferring from a Japanese economy car to a German sports car is a massive difference. It's a big change, both in reliability and space, usability, and gas and fuel consumption. Japanese cars are definitely the way to go. Okay, now I know I talked about 4-door cars as the best option for delivering pizza, and I totally still stand by that. But if you're like me and you like a sports car, but you also don't want to compromise reliability, I have a few options for you that I would highly recommend. Okay, one would have to be a smart car, or smart for 2. One, it's going to be super easy to take anywhere you want, okay? Whether you're in a small town or a big city, smart cars are very reliable. They are a little bit expensive to maintain because they are made by Mercedes, so take that into account. But you can fit them almost anywhere, any parking spot, any nook and cranny. Plus, you can use the passenger seat as a good delivery holder for your pizzas. Definitely a good option. Another one would have to be a Scion IQ. Now, the Scion is going to be a little bit more expensive compared to the smart cars. I've seen some smart cars you can sell, or you can buy some smart cars for $2,500 with like 30,000 miles. It happens. That's a killer deal for what you're getting. I would highly recommend those just because of the cost. Maintenance would probably not be too much. Of course, the insurance might be a little bit because it's a 2-door. Next, if you want a hybrid plus like a manual transmission, which is only one option, is going to be the Honda CR-Z. Hybrid, really a decent fuel economy, but still a fun, sporty car where you're not compromising the Prius aspect or the Prius look. You know, so you're not compromising your coolness factor if that's what you're looking for. But you can still drive a fun car, and it's reliable, and it's a hybrid, so you get really good incentives. CRZs, definitely cool cars. Definitely recommend. Alright guys, thanks for watching. If you guys have any other questions for me regarding pizza deliveries, food deliveries, any suggestions, all that stuff, please hit me up in the comments below. I'll be more than happy to answer those. Also, I've made tons of other videos about Domino's and delivering pizzas and food. I have tips and tricks. I also have other recommendations and funny stories. So please check out the rest of my channel. Please like and subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. And I will see you in the next video.